I would like to call the October 18th DeSoto City Council meeting to order, and we'll start with roll call, please.
Lane. Here. Daniels.
Here.
Ritter.
Here.
Murdoch.
Here.
And Councilmember Hunter Michael is absent this evening, Mayor.
Okay. Would you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, our first item tonight is our consent agenda. We have the minutes, approval of the minutes from our council meeting of October 4th, and approval of pay ordinance 840. Any questions or a motion, please?
I'll make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Lane.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Motion carried.
Okay. Our next item is approved pay ordinance 848. Please note, Councilman Ritter's left the meeting.
Crap, I sent the wrong one. I'm sorry, that's my
No, this
fault.
is 840.
Yeah, but this isn't signed.
I'll make a motion we approve pay ordinance 848.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Oh,
Lane.
he's got something out there. Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Thank you, Council.
This one.
Motion carried.
Gotcha.
All right, Kevin.
Kevin re-signed that, I sent the wrong one.
All right, our next item is call to public. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to comment about any matter relating to city business not on tonight's agenda. There's a 4-minute time limit. Please stand and be recognized if you wish to address the council. Seeing none, we'll move on. Old business, we have none. Item 4, new business. Consider agreement with RG Fiber.
Yes, Council, this is the culmination of several years of hard work on really everybody's part, specifically the mayor and the broadband committee, efforts to solve our citywide broadband internet access issues. We selected RG Fiber as a result of an RFQ process that we sent out earlier this fall. Among 3 good, strong proposals, selected RG Fiber as our partner, and we've since been negotiating a contract for services that encompasses the the ideas that we had that we wanted to incentivize, primarily incentivize a terrestrial broadband network south of K10 and in unserved areas of the city, but then we also wanted to encourage competition within the whole city for gigabit service to the residents. So what we wound up with, the structure of the contract is actually a design-build agreement because RG's scope, their proposal included construction of a conduit network throughout the unserved area and transfer of a portion of that conduit system back to the city. So it really became more of a construction contract than a contract for services at that point. So the structure of it looks like a design build where the contractor is agreeing to design and build infrastructure for the city in exchange for payment. There are also provisions in there and guarantees that RG Fiber makes to the city to provide services to City Hall building and other city functions. What am I doing? Sorry. All right, we're good. All right, technology. All right. There are other provisions of the contract that commit RG Fiber to providing internet access and phone service actually to City Hall and other city facilities, and those are listed in the contract. The basic contract agreement terms I've outlined in the staff report. The contract is, we won't go through line by line of the contract. I assume that you've had a chance to review that. The broadband committee did meet and talked about this in detail at the end of September. They saw the format, the form and format of the contract. We're comfortable with that. We did have some provisions in there we wanted to include, some discussion on that. So we were able to work those provisions into the contract you have before you tonight. In general, the negotiation process with RG Fiber has gone very smoothly. We didn't really have any material items of disagreement. They were eager to commit to the terms that they've outlined in their proposal for services, so it went pretty smoothly. General terms are as follows, and I've restated these in the memo. RG Fiber is agreeing to provide the conduit system throughout the unserved areas, and those areas are the ones generally south of K10, shown on this map here in orange. So it's essentially everything inside the city limits south of K10, and then there's a little bit north of K10 at the far east side of town there. The green lines on this map represent the conduit that they'll be installing. This conduit is, there's 7 small conduits inside a single conduit sleeve, so it's called a microduct. 7 micro conduits inside there, each about 1 inch in diameter. He'll build the system. He's retaining 3 of those conduits for his use, and he will be giving back 4 for the city's use. The yellow dots there are handhold locations, basically pits where we would be able to access our conduit. Access to his conduit will be separate and apart from these in separate pits, because the industry standard is you don't want multiple entities being able to access the fiber through the same handhole, the same pit. So that's just a recipe for unintended service interruptions. So he's committed to installing the conduit within 6 months of the contract date. He'll also begin providing service to that area within 6 months and have service available to all the customers within that area within 12 months. So that's the commitment for the unserved area. He also commits within 12 months to provide connections. Let me see where I am here. Provide connections to these city facilities that I have listed. And the city facilities includes the city hall offices here. So for the main floor here, he'll provide fiber connection into the server room. And I see Mr. Bosch has just walked in. He said he'd be here, so Mike, I'm about halfway through describing the terms of the contract, so welcome. Connection to the city hall offices, the city pool out back, the senior center downstairs, and the gym. He'll also be providing fiber-fed Wi-Fi to Riverfest Park, to the downtown area, and to Miller Park. In addition to that, there's provisions for him to work in good faith with USD 232 to provide reduced internet cost services to students who qualify for reduced lunch. There's also a commitment to work diligently to pursue a fiber to the home network, gigabit internet network throughout all areas of the city within 24 months. There's also bonds, insurance, and warranty period. In exchange for those services, the city is agreeing to pay RG Fiber a total of $500,000 in 2 parts. An initial $300,000 really before anything gets started, and then the final $200,000 is due at the end of the first year, or when service is available throughout the unserved areas, and when all the city facilities are connected. So that's our way to make sure that those things happen in a timely manner. We also agree to provide free and expedited right-of-way permits for his construction of this network throughout the city, and we're allowing him to connect his facilities to city-owned bridges within the rights-of-way. There are also mutual provisions for liquidated damages, and there's a dispute resolution process in the contract. that essentially is the contract that's in front of you. I don't think it deviates really in any material way from everything that we've talked about that we wanted to accomplish with this whole effort. Happy to answer any questions. If we want to stop there, answer any questions, maybe of staff or Mr. Bosch, who's here tonight. The follow-up would be then with the $500,000. We do need to have a discussion about where that money's coming from. The cash is on hand. We do have in this year's budget a expected ending fund balance of $2.3 million. We have in the budget a $750,000 contingency line item that we could fund this through without any budget amendment. But that really doesn't get to the question of where do we really want the money to come from. So if we want to have that now, maybe we stop there
Let's ask a question,
and then talk about the agreement
right.
now. Talk about those
Questions
things
for
now.
Mike regarding the agreement? Lori, any questions or comments?
Question about it, just as a curiosity, because I'm not really understanding all this conduit and where it all.
Yeah.
So on that side there, and then we have, so I can understand where that's all gonna connect together. The city ones and all the different things that are kind of around here, are there then connections already in place that those?
Yeah, so there aren't. There aren't. Essentially, I wish my pointer worked better on this screen, but maybe I'll switch to just the mapping here. So those conduits that are throughout the unserved areas will obviously have to be connected to other conduits that get service to that area. RG Fiber have their main connection point here at 83rd and Kill Creek. They'll have to construct conduit straight down Kill Creek Road to connect to that point. They'll also have to construct conduit westward along 83rd Street, and I don't remember the exact route to City Hall, but somewhere come up here to get City Hall. Those are separate, and they're not shown on that map. Yeah, right. Yeah, so the RG will have to provide conduits or fiber network to the parks themselves. The connection will be Wi-Fi, but it's fiber-fed Wi-Fi to those areas. So, yeah, essentially within the first 12 months, they're going to have to build that infrastructure to get to City Hall and to get to the parks.
And none of, or any of those then ours afterwards, or just the ones?
No, just the ones south of K10. Yeah, those are the only conduits that would be ours. And I think the reason for that is because this is the area where service providers need incentive. That's where there's a return on investment gap. And the hope is, and I think the very strong possibility is that with our remaining 4, we can lease those out to a second service provider so that there's competition in that area as well.
And Clearview City is just to the main thing or 2 units in Clearview City?
Right now, the commitment for Clearview City is just to provide service to Clearview City itself. The difficulty there is in our water system, we treat them like a big apartment complex. None of these roads in here are controlled by the city. We don't have easements in there. These are all private roads, so we can't guarantee Mr. Bosch access to those. So yeah, it would be a single point of connection there to Clearview. Whether or not Mr. Bosch can negotiate with the owner of Clearview City and get that fiber to everyone in there is a different matter.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Rob?
Where are the free public Wi-Fi access points? Riverfest, Miller Park, and City Hall?
Downtown.
Or downtown?
Yeah, so it's Riverfest, Miller Park, downtown, and the gym.
What's the reason for downtown?
DeSoto Days. Oh, I'm sorry, for downtown. Downtown.
It's downtown.
Yeah,
we're gonna be a connected community. We're gonna be a smart city, right?
So the
That's fine, I just was.
is the one at
just
the
asking.
gym, will it be strong enough to reach the pool?
I don't know. It'd be inside. Oh, we could think about the pool. The pool is one of the connection points. There's nothing in here that requires Wi-Fi at the pool.
That would be our responsibility to improve our Wi-Fi.
We could do it
Right,
ourselves.
right.
Yeah, with the connection.
Okay, thank you. Kevin?
Sort of the same question. It states in here that it'd be provided to the chamber and the sheriff's department, but it's up to them to pay monthly.
Yeah, that's
Or
right. That's right. The
Right.
connections are there, but the monthly fees would be on them.
Right.
The other stuff, city, it's free. City Hall is free. And for a period of 20 years. So that's a long time. That's a commitment.
Does that mean that we won't have to tie to the school district, or will we still
Yeah,
tie to them for redundancy?
It would be a redundant service if we chose to do that. In my view, this completely replaces all of those efforts. That whole lease, the building, the line, all this more than replaces what we were hoping to achieve with that.
Just an exercise in negotiation.
Well, it's good to establish a relationship.
It was.
That's all I had.
Thank you. Danny? All right. Thank you.
Mayor, if I can
Certainly.
just add, the contract also requires a performance bond, a maintenance bond, and a statutory bond. So, obviously with a contract like this where we're, paying that kind of upfront money, there's a concern that, God forbid something happened. But with these bonds, if, that fully protects the city from the standpoint if the project was, only partially done, we could call on the bond the performance bond to finish it. The statutory bond protects the city from any liens for labor or materials being filed. And then the maintenance bond, Mike and I, talking with Mr. Bosch, we just set that maintenance bond at $35,000 because just given the conduit is fairly, it's not like, a lot of other improvements that if there were failures, it would be a lot of money. So we thought that the $35,000 was a fair amount. So.
Okay. All right. So we want to move on to Part B then. If we're done with the agreement
Sure.
discussion, how do we want to pay for the?
Yeah, so Part B is, okay, how do we want to pay for this?
Right.
So like I indicated, there's cash on hand. There's the contingency in this year's budget, so we could just, writing the check's not a problem. The discussion is where is this money going to be allocated from? So, like we've discussed before, 2019 budget includes $450,000 for unspecified initiatives. I've listed some bullet point ideas about projects that we've discussed. Some of these we have decent prices on, some of them not so much. Broadband incentives is one of those items. Obviously, this would be more than the $450,000. The bathrooms at Riverfest, you can see the list there. Public art, capital improvements that didn't make the list, pedestrian signal crossings, those sorts of things that we have yet to really come to a decision on. The other thing I mentioned in the staff report would be the possibility of adding an amount to the CIP bond issue that's coming up. Patrick had a conversation with our bond counsel today. It doesn't look like it would be that simple to do. Patrick, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, just because the conduit, it's sort of debatable whether that's truly a public improvement for purposes of the bonding statutes. Public improvements are defined as water, sewer, more typical public improvement. So
We need to update those definitions and bring them forward to the.
yeah. But
Sorry to interrupt.
oh no, you're fine. In talking to the bond council, one idea we could still bond them under our home rule, do GO bonds, but it couldn't be tacked on to the capital improvement bond. It'd have to be a separate, separate procedure. So that would be one way. And then another way would be looking at projects that we have slated that, you know, perhaps we were going to use funds we have, and, you know, we could bond those and then switch the money to cover this. So
Yeah, so I think the overall message, we can bond all or a portion of this. It's just wouldn't be as simple as just throwing it into here. The other thing that I didn't put on here was the possibility we could borrow from the electric reserve fund like we've done for other bigger projects that we've had come up. That fund is currently sits at about $1 million, but we have some transfers into that fund that we will do this month. It'll end the year about 1.2. And remember, that's fund we're kind of using to self-fund our vehicle equipment replacement program. And so we have funds coming out of that and going into that on a yearly basis, but the long-term projection for that is for it to just steadily increase from now. We could borrow from ourselves on a payback schedule that's anyway, you know, whatever, of our choosing, essentially. And then the last thing would be to just use allocation from cash reserves. What I'd suggested in the staff report was just kind of splitting the pie, taking a couple $100,000 from the unspecified initiatives for next year, maybe a couple $100,000 from you know, in a bond issue, or maybe from an electric reserve loan, and then just pay the rest out of our just general fund balance. And projecting those into the future, I think. Well, I don't know how. If you've been able to pour through every number on the quarterly budget report that was sent out earlier this week, I'm sure you all do. But the fund balance is projecting forward, you know, 5 years because of sales tax revenues and spending that's in check are looking pretty healthy. So really a combination of any of those, and I don't think we have to decide tonight. Yeah, we don't really have to decide, but you know, if you have any thoughts about that, we should discuss.
You want to talk about it? I mean, we might as well, I guess. If you, I would start. I liked your idea of splitting it up between some bonded money and some, but I don't have a problem with a loan from the electric utility fund either, as long as we don't take it to a point where it would impact our bond rating and then interfere with our vehicle replacement program. I mean, I don't.
On that issue, weren't we paying back the money we used for the Commerce
road?
Road?
Exactly.
Yep.
And how many years were we paying?
It was 2 years.
2 years.
And so
by the time this comes, I mean, that should be paid back.
it is this. You know, transfer we're going to make this year. That'll be the end of that.
Finish that.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
that amount is about what we would need to borrow
Right,
back
exactly.
again. So we're not really that far in the
Right.
negative by doing that.
So,
Right.
so quick backup question. When are we hoping to, I mean, in talking the funds, things like that, you say we don't have to vote on it tonight, which is fine, but what's kind of our idea or goal to have this in place to start the clock running on moving forward?
You mean with
I would
starting
assume if you guys would approve the contract, we would sign that immediately and turn them loose. So
Yeah, so what we do is and we could cut the check tomorrow for the payment one.
Okay.
Just out of general fund, cash reserves, and that contingent, we'd put it toward that contingency line item.
Okay.
So we wouldn't have to do a budget amendment because of this. That's that story. But going forward, it just affects the year-end balances and the 5-year projections moving forward. So we could transfer that. We could transfer our repayment of that if we decide to do something different. We could do that.
I like the idea of borrowing from ourselves on this particular one. A bond is fine, but you know, there may be other projects that a bond might be a better choice for in case it needs to come out a little bit higher than what we could just borrow against ourselves.
okay. Rob, any thoughts?
I like the way it's being broken up. I mean, obviously, we don't want to use all the contingency and discretionary
Unspecified initiatives.
unspecified
in our
initiatives
first unspecified initiative.
in one lump sum. Since, I mean, with the amount of apartments and other things they're looking at, some of the safety issues, other things do need to be addressed. So I do like the fact that it's broken up, how we do it, whether it's with the utility reserve or bonding it. Either way, it's a loan. It's just whether we're doing ours own or somebody else's. I'm fine with that. If the utility funds being paid back from other things like Commerce Drive and it's there, I'm fine with working with it either way.
Okay. Kevin?
Yeah, so Mike, if you think we borrow from ourselves, which I do support, maybe breaking that up into a year or two, no more than a couple of years to pay it back.
Okay, yeah.
Because that payment would be the second, more than likely what we would be borrowing from ourselves would be that last payment.
It would be the 200,000.
And we're looking at that being sometime months away, a year away, 6 months. How long?
A year, at least a year.
At least
No,
a year.
I don't understand the question.
When
the
would
two-
that second payment be made?
Yeah.
Well, it's budgeted this year. We could have made the transfer in January. We just typically do
She's
all.
talking about the second payment in the contract.
1 year.
Oh, I'm
would be-
sorry.
A year
yeah.
from now.
A year from now.
well, unless
It could be sooner
He
if he
finishes
gets
early.
all the content done.
he's
Yeah.
hoping that it would be sooner.
It'd be no long.
I can't
It should
imagine.
be no more than a year out,
It'll be next year for
Right.
next
but
year.
it'd be definitely in 2019.
Yeah.
So would we be
Sorry, I didn't understand your
doing the loan for 250 then? Borrowing from ourselves for 250?
Well, we could
would
break
we
it up
still-
however we want. I mean, it depends on.
Yeah, or we spend down 300,000 in our, we do some of our
Yeah, 'cause
unspecified, and then we spend down our reserves 100
Okay.
instead of 50.
Right,
I mean,
right, and then
I,
so
I think we would still be
and-
healthy with that. I
one,
mean, Mike
yeah.
would bring the numbers back.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
Yeah, so I would want to follow up with bond counsel to see just how much of a hassle it would be to bond for
Right.
the 200. Need to probably talk to financial advisors about bond ratings. If the electric reserve fund drops by 200, what does that do? And then I think we're pretty comfortable with the cash reserves, part of the equation moving forward. But redo those projections. I think we could. I think we could work with that. So we do sounds like a 2, 2, and a 1. 1 from cash reserves, 2 from unspecified, and then 2 from either a borrow from ourselves or a bond. Sounds like about where to go. And unless our financial advisors tell us that's really wacky, then that's the direction we'll head.
All right.
and the one if we bonded, it could not be a standalone bond. I mean, that would make no sense at all. Right? I mean,
True. Yeah.
Or
I
the
think
two, whatever
they'd
that-
tell
yeah.
us. They'd tell
Yeah.
us pretty quickly. They'd probably
two.
say, "Look, you need, look for something you're
But
gonna
you can
bond
look at
for."
you can look at our
and
project
do
list
that
and see
instead.
if we can
That's probably where they'd
switch
go
stuff
with it.
around. I don't know if we can have that or
We'll see.
not. Not without
Yeah.
looking.
Not
That's
without
why
looking.
we would look. So I guess if we're good with where we're headed now, then what we would need would be a motion authorizing signature of the contract.
That's right. Yeah.
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second the
Authorize,
motion.
The mayor and the city administrator to contract with RG Fiber.
I'll
Okay.
second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Okay. Good. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
All right. I covered my agenda somewhere. Okay, consider 2019 sheriff's contract. They've asked to table this because Jeremy, our usual person, is not able to be here tonight.
Yeah, Jeremy Campbell. He really wanted to be here to kind of present this and give you guys kind of an overview of what they've worked on. So he's out this week. So he's asked to table that till the first November meeting.
I'll make a motion we table agenda item 4B.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, so then we will move on to consider rezoning of 34065 Commerce Drive. Brad?
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. What you have before you is a rezoning request from M1 Light Industrial to C2 Business General. The applicant and the representative, Justin Milburn's here tonight to answer any additional questions not covered in the staff report. This project actually is for Jake's Fireworks, and they've actually requested the rezoning. They're going to sell fireworks just around the Independence Day holidays, and then the other portions of the year will be used for recreational youth training facilities. Most what we've talked about mostly is batting cages, things like that. That'll have that year-round type use. The reason they're doing actually a rezoning request is we looked at the two categories of uses that they had, and as you can see in your staff report on page 8, it shows the two areas that we looked at as far as our codes where they wouldn't, it's a permitted use by right, and that's in the C2 district for miscellaneous store retailers, which would be the fireworks sales, and then the amusement and recreation industry, which would be also, which would cover the sports activities. So in looking at this and how this all fall into play, that's why they went with the rezoning. Part of the reason I'm talking about at this point is that whole area is actually zoned M1. Some of the businesses along there chose to do a special use permit. The bank, the Pizza Hut, Super 8, that's all zoned M1 industrial. So they went with a special use permit, but because of the dual use with this situation, they had to go with the rezoning to C2. Anyway, with that background, went through the typical process, sent out letters to property owners nearby. A public meeting was completed at the Planning Commission on September 25th. You do have the minutes for that in your packet. We only had one member of the general public show up, and that was the owner of the Super 8. And most of it, I think Raj's questions were curiosity driven, if there's any way there might be some sort of connectivity, or just wanted to make sure that there wasn't anything that might detrimentally harm his business. So we went through the typical criteria that we go through for all the rezoning. I will kind of run through this sort of briefly. Character of the neighborhood. The change in zoning will be appropriate for the proposed uses. Compatibility. Found it consistent with the surrounding zoning. There is C2 in the area. Suitability to the uses. That the property had been restricted under its existing uses. It really hadn't been restricted anyway, but as I explained, the dual use of this activity really wouldn't fall under the M1 category, so that's why the C2 category was pursued. The site has been vacant since it was annexed into the city of DeSoto. Extent to which there's a need in the community to allow this type of use. The recreational aspect is certainly a new activity that is not available within DeSoto. We felt that was a pretty strong determining factor in staff's recommendation on this particular line item. Fireworks sales are certainly available during the holidays, but they're not under a permanent structure. So everything else is under tents and things like that. So while that really wasn't that big of a salient point, it was just nice to know we've got a permanent structure that's unaffected by weather conditions for fireworks sales. Availability of adequate utilities. That Commerce Drive is fully served by all utilities that would be needed for this operation. Police and fire protection would not be impacted by this type of activity. One thing also, we did have the owner coordinate with Steve Chick, our building official, on fireworks and the implications for having those inside a structure. They certainly fall into a different category, and Steve did take them through the process of how that would be approved through. They have to annually, actually every year, we'll have to ask for a permit to sell fireworks, and it's a little bit different because of the enclosed structure. But we've worked through those issues. The extent the uses would be potentially adverse affect the safety or street network caused by this activity. All parking will be on site. There won't be any on-street parking allowed. Also, the new access drive is being constructed by the owner all the way to the back of the site where the building is. Environmental impacts. The rezoning will not have any significant impact on the environment. They did turn in a drainage study with a report which Mike reviewed felt met our criteria for stormwater management. Economic impact on the community, once again, I mentioned there's a use that does not exist that will be allowed for produce an additional activity into Soto, which will certainly be a benefit to the community. Extent which the zoning may detrimentally affect nearby property, there's no anticipated detrimental effect on nearby properties. Again, the owner of the Super 8 Raj had some questions, but I think he was fairly satisfied at the planning commission meeting with the discussion that the planning commissioners and the applicant and staff's report had. Relative gain, if any, to the public safety, health, and welfare. By denying this, I don't see there'd be any gain to any of the adjacent properties or neighborhoods in denying this application. The item is consistent with our comprehensive plan. It actually, Commerce Drive really is developing more into a retail center versus more of a light industrial, which is granted Hunamaki and Rarick and some of those other items companies are there, but it's really turning into a sort of a mixed use with retail and light industrial uses. And it is consistent with our proposed future land use plan. Staff recommended approval to the planning commission, and the planning commission also then ultimately recommends the city council, and they unanimously voted to recommend to the city council for approving this rezoning request.
Okay.
So with that concludes my presentation. I'll stand for any questions. I said the applicant is available for any additional.
All right. Questions for Brad or the applicant?
So I just have general questions, because
Sure.
obviously the rezoning, there's probably not a good reason not to do it, nor am I against it, but just curiosity. Are fireworks stored on it all the time then, just during the holiday season? And
Well, in my understanding that it's just during the holiday season, the fireworks will come in. I mean, the recreational use will be abandoned for that period. Fireworks come in, sales happen, and then the fireworks are moved out if that is.
Our city code prohibits it anyway. They would
they can't be even
currently
stored.
the city code separate
Yeah.
from the zoning. You can't store
You
fireworks.
can't store them even.
Right.
Okay.
It's only within that window that you can sell.
And the sports usage, is that something you do at other places? You've got that going on other places. Okay. Okay.
And when he says that engages, but we've had a lot of interest with soccer, rainbow soccer. We do have soccer to speak of. That.
Okay.
I remember from the planning commission meeting, there's actually some demand for that already.
We've had multiple people that have heard about it already asking. So I know there's a lot of people that are interested because of the location where it's at. There's been a lot of people very interested in using it for that.
What's the size of the building?
7,200 square feet, 120 by 60.
So, I had somebody come to me and ask me what was going on, and when I told them what was going on, they obviously already knew what was going on. They were just asking me what it was. And their comment to me, I won't quite repeat, but they were concerned that you had facilities in Topeka that were sitting empty with not even power on and stuff. Is this a true statement? Are there, I mean, is there a concern?
We have two facilities in Topeka. One of them is too small to have. So in the off season, we do like other people rent the building out for other things.
Okay.
Facility that is a 6,000 square foot building with taller ceilings. That's the one we have baseball in, and we have soccer and baseball in. So we always want to do something in the off season. We're open for 6 days.
Right.
So if we're not using it for something else, we're missing an opportunity. So we don't want anything sitting empty 360 days of the year.
Right. Well, neither do we, I don't think.
Right.
You know, having a facility that wouldn't be.
So the turnaround for our people was, we got it, they tear the baseball and the soccer and all the turf out on about June 1st. It gives them probably about 2 or 3 weeks to get their stuff inside of the fireworks. Then they go through the season, sell it it's legal in Kansas, and then by I think July 15th, they had all the fireworks, everything completely
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Rob, any questions?
Yeah, general question, but really not totally related to Jake's. Looking at the zoning map, is it foreseeable that most all that area west of Commerce Drive, when it turns north, becomes C2?
I would say it's certainly conceivable. One of the things, though, that, as you noticed when I talked about some of the uses are, I mean, some of the companies went through a special use permit process rather than change zoning. Now, can't really tell you why, because it's about the identical type, same process. They must have just felt the M1 zoning allowed them for some more flexibility for a future use. But yeah, I could see that ultimately, at least in a land use sense, the westward portion of Commerce that ties into Lexington all being commercial, and then maybe when you swing around, becoming a little bit more light industrial.
Yeah, because it already seems like Pizza Hut, Super 8, Minute Mart are all more commercial anyway.
Exactly.
Okay. That's all I had. Like I said, less related to Jake's, more just that whole land use.
Kevin, hey,
Yeah, Mike, how many fireworks permits per year can we issue?
6. Yeah. There's 6, and so if we get more applications than 6, then there's a lottery system, except that the local organizations are prioritized. So if you have 6 local organizations, you have 8 applications, the 6 locals are going to get it.
So how would this one be prioritized? Would it be local or non-local, since the Methodist Church actually helps run it?
I'm not sure. I'm not exactly sure about that.
Because they're going to continue running it, is my understanding.
Even inside the building?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So
So the
it would
applicant will be
still
the
be the
Methodist
up-
Church?
yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it'd
Okay.
still be a nonprofit.
We've never had,
Yes.
I think one year we may have had 5, but we've never had
Yeah.
more than
Oh,
6.
Yeah, I don't remember more
Apply.
than 6.
And then my last question, I guess, you talked about the building code and stuff, so as they talk through what they're gonna put in there, Steve will make sure the occupancy.
Yeah,
It's-
absolutely.
it's the
Yeah, he
nature.
does do an inspection or walk through places that do get permits from.
They have upgraded sprinkler systems and everything beyond what the normal building would be because of the fireworks, is my understanding.
Yeah, and as I recall, talking with Steve, I mean, it's gonna be sprinkled regardless of that type of use, but certainly with the fireworks in there, it's gonna be sprinkled.
And it should cover the occupancy too. I just wanna make sure. Thank you, that's all I have.
Danny?
Do they still go through the same firework paperwork every year that, on the city's behalf, I assume?
Yeah, they have to submit an application just like having a
Everybody
tent
else.
out.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. I don't have any other.
Okay, thank you, Danny.
Thank you, sir.
I don't think I have any questions, so if we don't have any more questions, somebody want to entertain a motion?
Sure. Let's just entertain a motion that we
There's a reason. There's an ordinance.
Yeah.
have an ordinance.
Yeah.
Approve the ordinance then, is the number on here.
2450.
2450.
Sorry, I gotta find it. You know, there's a lot of pages on this thing.
Oh, it's a separate, on the Google Drive, it's a
There
separate
you go.
thing.
I
Yeah.
thought there was. That ordinance, rezoning property at 34045 Commerce Drive from City of DeSoto M1 Industrial Light District to C2 Business General District. That's my motion.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Did you get all that, Lana?
Yes, sir.
Okay, roll call, please.
Before we even get it.
Lane,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Mayor?
rezoning, mayor.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
All right, thank you. Welcome to town. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks for letting the nonprofit continue there.
All right, executive session, I'm assuming we have none.
No, that's correct.
That's a good assumption. Advisory report, city administrator.
Yeah, I have one item, Council. Over the last several years, we've had at least 3 proposals come forward from companies wanting to buy the ground lease for the monopole for our cell tower that's next to Waverly. And the last time it occurred, or the first time it occurred, we kind of dismissed the idea. The last time it occurred, we also elected not to pursue it, and we have one now that's currently asking about it, whether or not we want to sell this lease. In general terms, the lease brings in for the city currently brings in about $4,000 a month, just in monthly revenue. The offers to purchase that ground lease have ranged from, I think it was 400. Oh, you have this in front of you.
Yeah, just
okay. So they've ranged from $475,000 a couple years ago. The current offer is around $600,000. And it looks like in November of 2012 there was a $613,000 offer. $600,000 is about 12 and a half years of revenue from the tower. It struck me that rather than just trying to one-off reply to these things as they occur, some of the questions we were asking ourselves just internally last time and this time is, what is the value of the ground lease? Do we think that the cell tower is going to become more profitable in the future or less profitable in the future? And if so, how does that affect revenue streams now and in the future? And then what would a reasonable amount be? My thought was, if you want to do a ready, aim, fire method on this, if we want to entertain the possibility of selling that, I think we should get some expert advice from somebody who's in the field and at least knowledgeable about emerging technologies. In that, I don't know how in the world 5G might or might not impact this, or if it's even in play. So get some advice about what that scenario might look like in the next 10 years. And then if we decide to move forward, if it's something we want to pursue, then you set this out for public bid. You let all these people know, hey, we're auctioning this off, and if we don't get a high enough bid, not auction, but we're bidding it. If we don't get a high enough bid, we're not going to do it. And so let it go to the highest bidder. That's the appropriate way to do it. So I didn't know, last time it was kind of a non-starter, the feeling of the council, and we've got a different council now, and since this came up, I think it might be, because it's not chicken feed. $600,000 is a significant amount of money, but so is the monthly revenue. So if it's something we want to pursue, we might have some consulting cost in there. I don't know who the expert would be. We'll find out. Somebody that's in the field that can give us some advice and continue the discussion. Just want to bring it up for discussion and see if there's a direction you want me to head, or if we just want to. We do kind of want to answer the current question from Tower Point. I think
$1 million
our answer would be, yeah, it could be $1 million.
So how long have we had the lease? How long ago did it start?
At least 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So-
It's somewhere about there.
So that's netted us $480,000 over the last 10 years then.
Yeah.
And so
yeah, that's about
going
right. Yeah,
forward,
yeah.
10 more years, but the
It-
question is.
The rents
is-
fluctuated a little bit, but
Depends
it
on the equipment that's on there.
depends on who happens to
Who
be on
had-
the
right.
tower. Yeah.
so
It's fluctuated a bit.
last time the council took this up, and I can't remember if it was the 2016 or 2012, but we had the city financial advisor kind of chart out, and he was pretty clear that this is a great asset. You shouldn't sell it just from a purely income stream, and I've been told for over the years that these rent rates that we get, that what we negotiated is like very, very lucrative compared to other sites. So we have constant interest, and but I think Mike makes a good point. We've never, and that's one thing we always hear from the current and others, that, well, you never know when these cell companies aren't going to need this technology. So, you know, that's one of their pitches that, you know, by selling out, we're removing that risk.
By the people that are trying to buy it from us?
Yeah. Right. And that's,
Okay, I believe that then, right?
well, that's kind of my point. We've never gotten a third, you know, a independent opinion
appraisal
to
or-
say that, you know, that there's any accuracy to that. But the only thing I would hesitate a little bit just going to the highest bidder. I mean, I think that's a great approach, but we still will have to have a relationship with that entity just from the standpoint of we will still own the ground underneath the tower. They will simply be just stepping into the city's shoes, you know, and they'll be maintaining the leases. So the thought is that when they buy it out, they'll charge higher rates. But as far as like, you know, maintenance of the ground and stuff, we'll still need to have a relationship with them. So we, you know, may want to just be somewhat cautious on making sure whoever we
Conditions in the or the bidding process, certain,
Protections.
right, it's just, you have to pre-qualify as a bidder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just so everybody's clear, you know, the way this happened, we used to have all this stuff on the water tower. We wanted to get it off there. So we had a company come in and actually build the tower. So we don't own the tower itself. We just own the land under it. And in exchange for us allowing them to build that tower on our property and transferring these, we transferred all these leases to that company. And that company handles all that mess. Patrick used to have to. I mean, it would take months and months of his time just dealing with those leases. Now that company does it. They just give us a check every month. It's really pretty nice the way it's worked out. So that's
And that company is the one that's trying to buy.
it was one of them, but it isn't the current one that's one to buy it.
It's not the one
That's
that,
right, Pat. Is that?
well,
And it's not just happening here, it's happening, that Tower X company, they're buying towers all over the United States.
but the current owner of the monopole, it's a company SBA, they actually have a first right of refusal. So that's what, it's amazing these other third, like this Tower Point, even when I tell them, well, SBA has a first right of refusal, so you can give us some great offer, but they can match it and keep you from, but they still pursue it. So basically SBA, you know, depending on what the, you know, highest bid was, they could match it and prevent, or then they would be buying it out and everything would stay the same.
I thought the school district was adding some towers to some of their locations to generate revenue, so I mean, it makes good sense.
Really?
To keep revenue, keep revenue in.
I didn't know that.
Huh.
I think that was the
Albie-
thought in
Albie has made
2012 was $4,000 a month is a pretty steady revenue stream.
Yeah.
I'm
If
just
it
not
is steady.
sure I'm real,
If it is steady.
have a reason to get rid of it. I don't know. It's like, yeah, 600 looks great, but 10 years from now, if we're still
I
doing
think,
it the way we're doing it, then 600 didn't look so great.
I think,
you know?
I mean, what you're asking for tonight is to have somebody come in and independently look at that aspect of it.
Yeah, I think that's the discussion I want to have. If there's just no interest in it, we just want to keep status quo, then we just tell Tower Point sorry, and then we just wait for the next one to come up. If you think there's a scenario where we might want to, you know, if we hear, you know, from an expert that, hey, you know, these things, you know, long term on the revenue stream, nobody's going to need these because 5G is totally different, or something.
What type of
That
cost are
may
we,
be-
what type of
Somebody
cost
need
are
that
we
now.
looking at for somebody looking to evaluate that for us?
Oh yeah, I'd have to bring that back to you. Yeah, I would think.
Well, you can go on the FCC, the Federal Communication website, and find the long-term range of what they're doing with the frequency allocations. As you guys well know, that probably all of our school districts in Johnson County, plus all the theatrical groups and churches, they sold all the frequencies off on all the microphones. And all of the television networks are affected. As of next July, they're gonna spend hundreds and thousands of dollars because the Federal Communications are selling these frequencies.
And they're also opening up a whole
so-
nother range.
Well, that's in the 400 to 600 megahertz range. Now, they are also doing the mobile frequencies that our cell phones all work on, the same. And the reason because of that is because people are requiring more data to run these things. And therefore, you can read this up on the FCC website. They're requiring more data, therefore they need more frequencies, and therefore they also need wider bandwidth. And along with wider bandwidth, to get this data to these phones, they're going to change all these antennas on these towers to substitute for that and actually have 2 tiers, 3 tiers, and 4 tiers. Right now, we're only on 2 tiers. And if they go to 3 and 4 and wider bandwidth and frequencies, these are going to, it's a gold mine. And I would suggest we never sell it. Technology grows and it's changing, and these things are still important to people to be able to get service.
Seems like a really easy revenue source.
So,
I like it as is.
I'm not hearing a lot of interest.
Yeah,
in,
no, that's
I mean, I
kind of
don't
what
really
we
want
wanted
to
to
spend
hear.
somebody
Yeah.
spend a bunch of money that we could be using somewhere else to
Right.
have somebody come tell us
Yeah,
what
yeah,
seems to
and
make
it's-
sense. I
what
just
kind of
don't
an
think
expert?
they'd keep pounding us and keep, now
Well-
it's gone up a little bit. If it's not worth something, I think they're trying to trick us into it.
Exactly. That's my thought is if this technology was going to change in the future, nobody would be buying it right
Wouldn't
now.
be
I mean,
wanting to buy
somebody would not. Somebody smart would not be wanting to buy it right,
Right.
now. And
Because there'd be down. I mean, that doesn't
Yeah.
make sense. So
no.
Okay.
The
Well, that
thought-
makes. I mean, that's clear enough. Yeah. So we'll let TowerPoint know that we're just gonna hold pat for a while.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good then.
What else you got?
That was it, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
So Mike, I'll give them your email
You can-
address now.
I'll just
Phone
send him
number.
the video. I'll just
Yeah,
send him the
the
video.
link.
yeah, there you
link.
go. Send them the link.
All right, Patrick. Do you have anything for the council tonight?
Don't have anything.
Okay. Brad, anything?
Just wanted to let you know, we are finally underway with our improvements to the exterior at the Soto water plant. Asbestos abatement will probably be done tomorrow. It really is pretty amazing how that place has transformed in the last 6 months. We've got tanks out of there, so the old different buildings have come down.
Almost nice enough to be having a party out.
I
there,
was
right?
just gonna say,
Holiday
we
party will
could
be out
probably
there.
have our Christmas party out there, right?
Well, let's still get carried away. We can cut a ribbon. We can cut a ribbon.
Ribbon cutting?
Yeah.
Well, the view isn't particularly good.
It'll be it's a diamond out there in the middle of.
We will definitely not let Mike plan it because it may not
We-
get done. Lana,
will-
you're gonna be in charge of the ribbon
Will
cutting.
not let this pass without a party.
That's
Have
right.
my
We're
word.
still waiting for the
I know the silo. I know.
Yeah.
silo party, the lime silo party.
Well, there's several ribbons around,
Yeah, we
So
need
we'll
to
just
put
take them all
ribbons
over the
around
place,
a
won't
lot.
we?
running all over the place with a
There
pair
we
of
go.
scissors.
Sounds good.
All right. Lana, anything for council tonight?
Just one thing, would like to remind you all about the 2018 regional suppers that the league is hosting. I have Mayor Walker and Councilmember Daniels registered already. That date is October 30th, and it's at the Matt Ross Community Center in Overland Park. I need to RSVP anyone else before October 20th, so if you're interested in going, please let me know.
Okay. Thank you, Lana.
That's it.
Council comments. Danny, you want to start us tonight?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple of things. I want to congratulate Lana on her, she didn't explain the vice president of the chair,
Vice Chair.
vice chair. And congratulations to her on that achievement and representing the city. And she does a great job. I want to thank Mike for his help with the committee on refurbishing housing and help with the volunteer committee this week. And they're gonna give us a report later, so I don't wanna say any more about
Yeah,
that. But Mike
yeah.
helped us out a little bit with opening some gates and getting us a place to take some refuge, brush and tree limbs and that kind of thing. So I wanna appreciate that, and that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Danny. Kevin?
I don't think I have anything this evening. Thanks.
Okay. Rob?
Two things. Did we actually take action on the K-10 exit, stop the lights and striping yet?
Yeah, we entered into a contract with
Yeah.
a design engineer.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Second,
That's when you were eating Brazilian beef.
was that last week?
Oh, that's right. That was that night. Yeah.
Okay. And then any update on the property for the city maintenance area?
No, the last update I think I gave was back in the summer, and turns out that contract doesn't expire until the end of this year. I think it's actually in January of 19.
Okay.
So we were just kind of holding pat until then.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all just came to mind.
Okay.
Yep.
Lori?
Well, I'm going to just ask a quick question, and it only got triggered by something that Danny said. That I have an email from, because I'm on the board of the person who takes care of the Scout House, the executor of the Scout House. I have a voicemail from a gentleman who says he's with Westar and is doing some kind of circuit upgrades and stuff. Do you know anything about anything going on with them? Okay. Well, it's just I was just a curiosity thing. You don't.
It wasn't the meter thing, was it?
I don't know. It just says that he wanted to discuss some stuff with me that Scout House is impacted, and it's like, well, what really could be? I
Are
don't know
you
what
gonna
more could be
sponsor
doing.
it
I
for the
was
next
like,
100
hey,
years?
that's
Yeah.
what I always say. Would you like it? You can have it, but I mean, it's a big long message about just that they're going to do some things and trying to get a hold of the person in charge of it. And
I'll talk to Steve.
I
maybe
just
he
didn't know
knows.
if anybody heard. I don't want to.
Well, I know they
Have
came
somebody-
out to my area and they replaced the meters with the new meters for the people that didn't use very much. They got a different meter.
Oh, maybe
People
that's.
that use more power got a different meter and do the wattage and how they did that. And then they also had that thing where there was incentive to during high peak times they can shut you down.
Oh, maybe they're going to do something
But
like that.
that's all. It may be not that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'd better.
Oh, I was just curious. I hadn't had time to call him
That's
yet,
all
so
I
I was
heard
just
when you
wondering if
came
there's
up.
something going on or not. But
Remember, you can't give it away.
I know this thing is like anyway.
It's
Don't
yours,
get me started on it.
It's yours.
How did Kathy Ross give it?
She gave it to me.
So you have to
And now
find
I'm
somebody new in
Now
town.
I'm stuck.
that-
I think I'll give it to Rob.
There you go.
All right.
I don't have anything else,
All
though,
right.
Mayor. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I have one thing that I have been thinking about and throwing around, and it came to light because this week I happened to run into somebody that, or came to the top, I guess, because I ran into somebody. I was at an event and I saw Matt Snook, and he reminded me that he used to do the concerts at when we had the CAW. And I had been thinking ever since, last summer or so, I would like to see, since we don't do that concert, I think it would be good if the city were to do a concert series of smaller, less expensive concerts, like through the month of June or something, 3 or 4 events. And I ran into Matt, and he said he had an open night in June, one night open on a Friday night. And I thought, you know what, if he's got a night open, I better see if there's any interest in pursuing this, because it won't stay open very long. But I just wanted to throw that around. I know it's probably something that we would discuss with the Parks Board. It'd be Parks programming, but I wanted to get the council's feelings on. Obviously, it wouldn't be free, but we could do some fundraising or get some sponsors to share the costs. I was thinking of something like spending $3,000 to $5,000 on a series of concerts through the month of June, and have free concerts for our citizens as a activity in during the summer. And wanted to get some feedback on that.
Well, I like the idea a lot. We've talked about it a lot. I've thought of that through the years. Some of the cool things about DeSoto to promote it. I've always thought the arts is a way to do it. We do the Sunflower Art Fest, the wine song, music. All the concerts have always done very well. I mean, it's hard because they cost a lot of money to have people come in, and you're trying to pay it all off. But they've always done well, even when they had the blues with the barbecue. The concerts, were so-so, but it kind of had more to do with the night, I think. But so I like the idea. I've been to the Olathe free concerts in the past quite a bit, and very enjoyable evening and a good way to bring the community together and have something that they can look forward to hanging out and doing things with friends at. And free is great. I think you can get some pretty decent people for pretty reasonable prices. And yeah, I like the idea.
Okay.
I'd go with funds going towards something like that.
Kevin?
Yeah, I don't have any problem. I thought the concerts went very well. She just lost that major sponsor. So I think smaller concerts with a benefit. I would like to see our parks group get more involved.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna.
activities.
The reason I brought it up now is because it's on my mind, and we'll be meeting with the Parks Board October 29th,
Yeah,
I believe.
next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Week
and
from
like you
Monday.
said, Rick, if you're going to do something like this for this coming June, you need to be booking those concerts,
Right, exactly.
the venues now.
Yeah, so Matt's holding that date for me.
So, Matt, he's more country, right?
He's country, right? Yeah.
So, you could do a country,
That's what-
maybe,
Well,
when
I'll just
I
throw out the ideas
yeah.
I had. So, the local, actually one of them's local.
Yeah, Land
It's
Rush.
Landra, and they're a great band. If you've ever heard them, it's a rock, and just a lot of energy. But I wanted to approach them about doing one of the Friday nights.
Would there be interest in Latino?
Well,
option to
so
engage that community.
Richard brings in these guys called the Sons of Brazil
Mhm.
and that was another one I thought of just for another a group. But
Kelly Hunt's another.
Kelly
good one.
Hunt, right? So we have a lot of great, affordable local talent that we could get for that would allow us to do it as a free concert. But yeah, not all country or not all, just a variety of genres for all tastes.
The Rotary Club's been in contact with Land Rush, Richard, and maybe some of those guys have been kind of communicating with them. So I think they've talked about doing this type of a thing.
Yeah, Mark
Rotary.
Baker called me a couple months ago.
So-
they have very similar.
Oh, really?
idea.
Yeah, it's kind of, the same idea of doing this. And
Yeah.
so I know Land Rush is interested, and it's just,
Good.
once again, getting them
I was
now
going to catch
on
him
the-
at the wine song, and I didn't talk to him then.
I was going to
Yeah.
say there's
But
other,
they
I was
would
thinking
be-
about it then. This thing was
Yeah.
been on my mind
Yeah.
for quite a
there's
while.
other organizations could be done in partnership.
Right.
Well, the feedback during this Parks Master Plan, that's a big priority. People we've talked to in the surveys are like more community events. please.
events. Yeah. I mean, people like it. I mean, that's, the community in a small town like this, being able to be at an event where you can run into all your friends
Yeah.
and neighbors and people you haven't seen, it brings a community together great. So,
Like I said, I'd like to see our park management get involved as well. So.
well, and, a step further with that, once we get the park board going, one of the things that might be an idea for them is to see if there is somebody who might help sponsor and start to do some kind of more of a permanent type awning to go on
Right.
of some sort, look at different ideas. I mean, there's a lot of different ideas that you can do with that, but a stage cover is what I'm talking
Stage
about,
cover
like, of some sort.
band shell, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, you could do a permanent one. You could do the kite-looking type things
Yeah.
that can kind of come
Yeah.
up and down that are not overly expensive, but
Because
getting
the rentals of those things were a big piece. Like you
Right,
said,
right.
There's a lot of effort, a lot of time put in there, a lot of expenditures, and then you came out. They did, get some funds, but there's a lot of effort too.
Boy,
but sponsorships to be able to help do that type of things, I think would be one of those areas where,
yeah. So stuff like this needs a champion, somebody, not just a sponsor with money, but somebody who makes
The
it,
projects
like,
or the
the
concert series.
everything,
Yeah.
any community event.
Oh,
you
yes,
need
yeah.
somebody to put in time,
Right.
effort, and legwork. There are party planners that kind of could fill that role. Maybe that's something we.
I just think other cities' parks people are more
Right.
involved in what they
Yeah,
do.
the Parks
They-
Department
their park-
would probably,
Yeah.
it'd be somebody in the Parks Department that, I'm sure at
I think you
Olathe
check with other
or
cities,
at
those
Kearney or
say
Lee
that
Summit.
they're
Yeah.
involved.
Well, even
And-
at the league
Especially with 4th of
annual
July,
conference,
so
when
do
we
they.
sat in on the Lenexa update, their parks people were right there giving the update on it and what the Parks Board was doing involved in it.
It's a good topic for the Parks Board too. I mean, this is right up,
I actually
right
asked
exactly
the
what
Olathe
they want.
gentleman that was shadowing for the barbecue, because they're getting ready to hold one, so they were shadowing Sarah.
Oh, was he from the
And-
Parks at
yeah,
Olathe?
And so, he not only said, his parks were totally involved, it was their department that was gonna be hosting it,
Yeah.
but, fire, police, everybody else was well involved, so. I think we should do the same,
Empowering the Parks Board.
and employees.
And employee, the department.
What's the department? I mean, the Parks Board, the thing you gotta watch is, you can use them to plan things, but you can't expect them to
Do things.
plan the
No, I
party.
think Kevin's
You can't-
mentioning the staff.
Yeah, the staff.
Staff is
So we gotta-
is the key. And,
Yeah.
And if we want events like this, we may need more park staff
might need
or a
a-
person as Mike
Well,
is. In
I mean,
Missouri.
that's what I mean. It takes a lot of work to
Right.
do these
Right,
things.
exactly.
Everybody knows that, and I
Right.
worry about workload. I mean, and when we're talking about park staff, we're talking about Jay.
Yeah,
we're
right.
talking about Justin.
Jay and
Those are the
This
two
isn't gonna happen
guys.
with them.
Very
well.
They're pretty
I mean,
loaded up.
They're busy.
They're
you know.
busy. Yeah.
We'd have to
and
almost
what
look
is it
at-
you don't want them to do
Right.
instead of this?
Right.
So I guess those are the things that just kind of grind through my
Right.
mind. So we'll give that some thought. But clearly a community priority, really. This type of
Yeah.
effort. So we can talk that with Park Board in a week or two
Yeah.
and kick it around with staff. Do how to make it happen. Great idea. We just need to work out all the details, right?
Okay,
Fair enough.
I think that's all I got.
All right.
Good idea.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
No, I thought.
Sorry.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? We're adjourned.
Good.